Afternoon. How are we feeling? I got 50 pages left in my Talmud live stream. And I'm pretty sure I want to be done with all manner of Jewish focus as far as that is concerned. With the exception of what's going to be happening through this time as we are moving forward. But I may come back to it in the future. That might be in like a year from now with how long it's going to take me to do the next thing. I believe there is a power in reading the different books that I'm reading publicly live with all the reactions and things like that. I think it kind of becomes self-evident going through it, and then see it in real process to show you the raw in-betweens instead of just cutting all that shit out. Because you're somebody who is sitting You're someone who is sitting in a current state of the performative read, right? I'd say what I am doing is 10 times better than Drag Queen Story Hour. Nobody talks about that anymore. Are they still doing that in California, and just everything else that's collapsed about California is just making it worse or something? It is quite something to watch all of that collapse on itself instead of trying different things. Never quite seen it so bad. And they made a much bigger moral deal out of it than it actually had to be if they had just sat there and addressed the initial grievances. Right? Instead of just letting it exacerbate. But there was something in the plan to exacerbate all this. And you can tell that it kind of had to go this way. It was really insane how far we let it all kind of fall on its face when we did, right? In 2012, we had no idea how transformatively fucked the world was going to look in just that 4 years' time. The amount of cultural damage that was done during that last term of his administration, right? We see cultural damage happening under a certain kind of contrast with this administration and the Biden administration, mostly because of the wake-up process that has been put upon us, right? But at the same time, I can, between how people chose to to basically succumb to narrative with our killing of Charlie Kirk, our killing of the ICE protesters, and then finally the killing of this Ayatollah. We've really kind of gotten our consciousness a bit twisted. The prevalence, the perseverance of the moral narrative since the various things have come to pass, right? Like, you can see where the political class on the right has weaponized what has leaked of the cover-up of what they're all differently guilty of, depending on their on many things about them. You've got the Anthony Weiner laptop, you've got the Clinton emails, you've got the Epstein emails. You can combine all of this with all sorts of other stuff that's out there in the ethers that these now affirmed conspiracy facts. It is a fact that people were conspiring through Jeffrey Epstein between the higher ups of elite bloodlines. They don't care what economic system. The Incunabula do not care what your economic system is. You could be capitalist, you could be socialist, you could be whatever. The only thing they care about is that you are not working for each other out of love and doing for others in regards to the value of what they've done for you, to honor that archaic law of Gebo. Very important principle of balance. So, this is why, it's like, I don't want to be in a communist society, but I don't want to tear down whatever this thing is that we all know makes sense economically. It doesn't matter how fucking rich you are. It matters what you can do with money. That's what matters. And you have to understand where the value comes from. People don't give you money unless you show them you are that valuable for that money. Right? It's the difference between me now and me 2 years ago. Me 2 years ago would be begging for $16 an hour. Right? Now I can confidently state that I won't work for less than $20 an hour, because I'm in a whole other line of work, and I know the range in which that job might want to give me the low ball, and I'm back and forth between low ball numbers and high ball numbers, and somewhere between 20 to 23 an hour where I am right now. Right? Instead of complaining about the system, I'm sitting and I'm thinking in it and saying, how well do I understand this? Is there a part of it that is directly screwing me over, or is it just screwing me over because the economy is a screw over and that I need to rethink my whole relationship with the economy and not just blame the immediate line of the system I am dealing with like it's personally doing me wrong? Am I personally being done wrong, something out of the extraordinary of what everybody else is going through in the system? then I have all sorts of particular authority in my position. And they don't want the liberal-minded person like this. They don't want the socialist, communist-minded person like this. They want the most compassionate people to be the most ignorant about the numbers, to the point where they hate the numbers. Right? And so they make a communist hate numbers. Why? Because who do the communists hate? People with the most. And the most means largest numbers. And the largest numbers are the most evil of all numbers, which are evil. And that's kind of where they're thinking. Until they have all the numbers, in which they're not really counting. They're just looking at it and saying, we're bigger than you. A bunch of kids in 1999 looked at Woodstock and said, man, we could take over the world. You trashed the fucking place. You destroyed the world. How you treated Woodstock in 1999 is how you treated America in 2020. That's what became of Gen X. It turned into a bunch of Dionysian nonsense. Hey, what's up? And that is the same world that never got a chance to get to know what Iran was before the Ayatollah and what Iran has been since the Ayatollah. And we have accepted that reality for forever. I think mostly because we assumed that no one could be that tyrannical for real in the 20th century, since we defeated Hitler. So it can't be as bad as Hitler. Look, it's religious. It's religious. I mean, yeah, they're imposing all this shit, but also that's kind of their culture, right? And they played up our general confusion about what the Middle East is and acted like the Persian region we call Iran is cognate to the Arabic world. It's a different language group. It's a completely different language, completely different origin of culture. With the exception of the universal bindings which are there when you go far enough back in time into our animist traditions. Pre-Zoroastrian, mind you. Zoroastrian is still, right? It's still like a thing. It's just like if you're not pre-Anunnaki, which also means pre-Zoroastrian, you're not figuring it out yet. Stuff got lost and twisted and then was salvaged by being appropriated into the rising religions, right? There's always those things that survive that were of good practice that they couldn't part with, otherwise the people would have rejected the thing wholesale, right? This is why they keep distorting and manipulating the truth about vaccines, because they still want the tradition of vaccinating you somewhere in your best ritual practices of medicine. And so we don't live in the world anymore where Russia was going to be deeply interested in defending Iran, or that China would be so economically anchored to the region's economy that they would be forced to enter a war against us, against Iran. You're seeing none of that. you're seeing absolutely zilcho. I mean, whatever, these other countries, they may move and they may take these other countries. I don't know what to say about one thing or the other. But I do think that the world is not that interested in doing these World War II style coalitions anymore, especially considering they're over conflicts that have been long ongoing. This is not the same thing as the skirmishes of Europe. These are much simpler, but still have certain impacts. Whoops. Dummy. There we go. Okay, good. Yes. You know, it's just like, to me, like, okay, the left wants to defend, like, they don't like it's just like, oh, you know, religions in general are these beautiful things that are, you know, the culture, it's the heart and the soul and everything of the man, da-da-da-da-da, right? The heart and the soul of the man was hijacked by religion. Right? You get these people and their religions away from everyone else. Stick them not in isolation, but stick them in a place which outright contradicts all of their dogma and forces them to see how a moral world works without all of their fucking rules, and, you know, where nobody is dressed right, nobody's doing the right things at the right times for their thing or whatever, and everybody is just here and relaxed, just like, and, you know, and then, like, make them sit in it for a month. Make them sit around fucking just civil society. They have to be watched, obviously. They're dangerous because they think they're surrounded by the evils and all that. I mean, they're technically under arrest in this process, right? And you tell me what their relationship with Allah is going to be after a month, understanding how Americans live, seeing all places. And not being allowed to be a part of anything else, right? And the Muslims got the contingencies for that, because they're gonna go face Mecca, they're gonna go get on the ground, and right, because you can't, you know, like, there's no way without strapping someone down for the rest of their life that you can just sit there and fucking, like, go through the effort of separating a man from his religious prayer time. He's got floor space. He knows which direction Mecca is. He can just do what he's got to do with everything he's got that he can do it with, right? Because he must uphold those 6 pillars, right? And so my point is that you're not trying to even separate him from his personal self-autonomous rituals, because that's also part of the point, because we're all allowed to have that in our society, whether we choose to do it or not. I have my own. 3 times a day, I do things. I talk about this. I do 3 rituals a day myself. And wherever you are in the world, northeast is your direction. Wherever you are in the world, northeast is the Holy Land. It's just the northeast is the Holy Land. because that's always been, from the animist tradition, what it is. You just need to know where Northeast is. You don't need to know where Mecca is, right? So you don't have to wonder where you are in the world. You just have to figure out North. And so I can do my daily rituals with nothing, or with all of my little trinkets and magically charged toys. It makes no difference as me upholding my core values to myself. It's a fascinating juxtaposition between someone who does rituals under their own rules versus, building a ritual that is completely inconsiderate of life itself, which is what, I get out of fucking looking at all this goddamn shit in the Talmud. It's just rituals that are meant to give you life anxiety. It's just, it's just like the explanation. It's just like, somebody needs to fucking get off of these fucking arguments and just put it down. Like, this is why we have the Uniform Commercial Code, right? So it takes all the fucking legalese that's in the legislation and just puts it into, like, plain, functional, analytical English, if you will. Because I got a problem with all Islam, but if Shia Islam is gonna continue to be the thing that it is, then do we want, if you want a world of peace, one of these days you're gonna have to fucking realize that it's not possible unless the side that does not want peace is eliminated, because they are in a state of not wanting peace. So you're either being peaceful yourself, waiting for others to bring peace. All right? And we calling for peace in the way that we have, without the relationship with Palestine, let alone the relationship with Iran, where did you think anything was ever going to fucking go? And keeping up this ridiculous fucking theater. You want to go listen to some fucking, like, new age hippie guy talk about how awful all this is? You want to go talk about some person who's terrified of the Marxist Zionist fucking people having their wind? You go ahead and you fucking go talk to those people. The whole world is not, is going to be very different in thinking. It's been very different in thinking, right? I really think that we crossed a dark threshold with the death of Charlie Kirk, but I also think that Charlie Kirk primed people to be this way because of how long he ignored certain issues. All he really did was teach the right how to defend their ignorance. That's all he really fucking did. He gave people a way to defend their ignorance, in which sometimes their ignorance happened to be right. But because their agenda is to wrap you in fundamentalist thinking, it's going to make you forget, because of how awful things have been, how important many liberal things that we wanted were. You know, I mean, I don't see the right returning to a call to, you know, go back into going after soft drugs in the manner in which people like me are doing cannabis and stuff. Right? I don't see that. That's great. I see it going kind of in the other direction. Different states are gonna try different things, going overboard or underboard, if you will, on being liberal or conservative in their regulation of it. But interstate commerce is going to also be a major factor, reducing the ability for them to even penalize you in their state. Right? It just depends on how well you keep up, you know, good practices as the culture of cannabis, you know, grows, right? And people understand that relationship with cannabis now, right? Like, they could have an agenda to rob you of that, but that would take a generation or so. It would be very hard to do, because you'd have to isolate a generation of kids, recondition them to be afraid of drugs, you know, the whole thing. And then that argument has to mature, and then it has to win in an argument over here, right? You know, like the left aborted their rationality in 2016, and that's why they've been on this culture loss. Whether they get political gains or not, they still have a culture loss, right? Because they were never, you know, properly informed of the wide breadth of ideas that were either in the general diaspora of American body politic, or what was just more hard right-leaning. And they amped that up so severe that it got everybody involved. And then you had this exponential amount of radicalization on both sides. It wasn't just radicals getting more radicals, it was radicals successfully encouraging more radicalization, especially because the opposite side would give them the perfect scapegoat for the other side to point at and say, everybody pick on him. And everybody's like, yeah, that's awful. You were funny, and I think it was funny how you made fun of him. I'm going to make my own line of jokes based on your joke on him. And then you feel like a rock star until that time has gone. And then either it just looks sad because you're beating up somebody who's mentally ill, who's already lost his power and is just within his rights, which is where we are today with a lot of people on the left. They've lost their cultural power, but they still have their rights, and they should have them. But then it's just the unrelenting mockery of them, forgetting that part of our whole discussion about them is how there's something wrong and these people need help, right? And they are our fellow Americans and everything else, and so we forget this. You know, we forget this with Charlie Kirk, who was like a guy who wanted to cross the threshold as a made man, you know. And then you've got these guys that went and foolishly got killed thinking that ICE was playing games with them. And, you know, just like, listen, they weren't martyrs, but they are yet still just, but they are something that became part of a demonstration of government overreach because the government should not have handled it that way. But they wanted to because they want the left to be like this. And it's also just a moral defeat. But I'd rather see the left morally defeated because 2 people were stupid enough to get killed than to see a whole bunch of good people get killed because they drove themselves crazy. Anyway. At any rate, I let go of assuming anybody that's up there that people like or hate is my friend or my enemy. They are just a part of a system. The system is my enemy. It is an enemy that has not struck me in a very, very, very long time. As much as my need to operate in the system is going to exploit me as much as it exploits the next guy. That's another problem, and that's also still an issue of body politic as a whole world that is really struggling under all of this, that doesn't deserve to have it happen, could really use the help of things like government assistance, and they resent somebody not contributing to the system. So it's very, very hard to get out of that, because there are a lot of people that think that what you're doing is the reason why they're not going to get taken care of, or what there is to be taken care of them is under threat. And it's just like, no, it's just the economy. It's just they're afraid that the way that they take care of you is going to be destroyed because that's how they control you. They don't want you under someone else's control system, or God forbid you figure out how to take care of your own well-being. So you have to think in terms of the money you need for the whole fucking situation. When it's deeper than that. It's deeper than just the fact that you took money that you can give people that insist on taking money from you because you're a tenant in a building and it's time for the monthly due and yada yada yada, right? I found it. I thought it was good reading through all that shit about the 4 economic relationships, and I sat there and I said, dude, that's actually very I've always kind of felt that, right? With, the borrower and the payer, or the one volunteering, and so on and so forth. And I said to myself, that this probably would work. This might actually work, because when I heard that bit about the tenant and the landlord, who's the tenant who rents out the building and such. So I think that's the problem, right? I think we have to do it that way. I think, the building is cooperatively owned by who lives there. And the landlord is a head manager that works for the trust of the name on the lease. Or the name on the... I mean, it wouldn't even be a lease. Under that thing, it's like that's your property. That which is a part of the apartment that is your domain, is of your body to occupy and use as yours, that is yours. Not rented, it is yours. with a landlord that has responsibilities, but he's not like your lord. He is there to lord over the land, not over you. Granted, you have to honor the land. You know, you have to honor the building. But make no mistake, it is your building. He can't yell at you if you break something. If you break something, it's his job to fix it. He can't. Why would he even yell at you? It's not his thing. It's your thing. You should be yelling at yourself that it's broken, and now you got to call the landlord. And then you got to talk to everybody in the building about it because of the cost that may be going into the whole thing or whatever, depending on how it's pooled. You get my point. Because certainly that would put way more teeth on the Fourth Amendment now, wouldn't it? You'd have stronger Fourth Amendment rights if everybody that had an apartment that was considered their living dwelling, their place, their, like as if their land. A square foot of an apartment, why not count that as land owned? For rights, for legal rights purposes. Right? What difference does it make if it's part of a whole building? It's your fraction of a building where you stand. You know? Just like, you know, if a house is in the name of mom and dad or whatever, you know, the kids still have their aspect of dominion in there. Certainly above somebody who is not part of the, you know, the family of the two named as such on the contract. All this is fucking easy. Easy shit. Alright. So I think I've spoken my piece. Let me see if we take a quick peek here. Can't read much. See, you're all keeping it short. Thank you. Wish I could see these names better here. Who is that? Is that... Oh yeah, that's Freya, right? Hi, Freya. Okay. Alright. That's good for me. You guys have a good one.